Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome to episode number 4 in a series where we are modding this Ibanez Mikro short scale bass with a bunch of different pickups to see what kind of sonic potential lies within. In this episode, I have installed Dimarzio Sixties PJ set. Is it going to sonically transform this bass? Well, let's find out together. In previous episodes, I have installed Seymour Duncan quarter pound PJ sets. I have installed the EMG Geezer Butler, and most recently I installed the very affordable Wilkinson M series PJ set. All of those different PJ sets had their own sonic signature, and they all sounded different from each other and different from the stock pickup. As to which PJ set is right for you, I think really comes down to what you are sonically looking for. Now, to round out the series, I have installed Dimarzio Sixties PJ set in this micro today. The model number is DP306 PJ. The GB stands for gloss black, and that is what I've installed here today. These also come in chrome and gold, so depending on your hardware choices and what you are looking for visually, there are a few different color options there, in addition to the usual black. Now let's first talk about the installation of these pickups. There was more than meets the eye for this one, and let me explain. So opening the box, what you do see is the 3 different pickups. I'm actually quite impressed they managed to get all 3 of those pickups in such a small box. And you also have 2 connector cables with kind of EMG style connectors that slot into the circuit board underneath each P pickup. And here's where things get a little interesting. Now, these Dimarzios were marketed to be ultra quiet, and they had shielded cables, which is, a great feature. But I think as a consequence of that, the shielding and the cable itself became quite a bit thicker. Now, unlike most P-bass pickups where each split coil connects to each other within the split coil set, this Dimarzio had separate wires coming from each P that, if you look at the instructions, look like they were designed to be run together into the control cavity. And this is where things got a little interesting. You see in this photo here, the hole for the wire to run through from the P cavity into the J cavity is not small, but it was not large enough to accommodate both of those cables running through together. So what I did need to do is I did need to remount that hole and enlarge it a tiny little bit in order to allow both cables to run through together. Now, this is not a big deal if you have a reamer or a round file. I probably would not suggest doing this with the drill bit because you do run the risk of some tear out. And if you're really not careful, you could end up splitting the wood. So I would suggest using a reamer type tool for this job. Interesting to note, despite the quick solderless connectors found underneath the P pickups, the wire coming out of the J pickup was hardwired. Now, if you look at the hole where the J cavity connects to the control cavity, that hole was also not large enough now to accommodate all 3 wires. So I did need to slightly remount and enlarge that hole as well. Now, in terms of the wiring itself, if you look at this photo here, you will find that the individual leads are very, very small. So I needed to use a pair of wire strippers that could cut all the way down to a 26 gauge. So I used this wire stripper here from Klein Tools, and it worked perfectly well. But the interesting thing to note here is not all wire strippers that most people own or you can buy from your hardware store can cut as small as 26. So if you are installing this set of Dimarzios, make sure you have a wire cutter wire stripper tool that can cut that small. Other features from this Dimarzio set. Similar to the Relentless model, these have a radiused or arched playing surface, which is kind of cool. It's a different design compared to the usual flat pickups most of us are used to. The problem here is the fretboard radius on the Mikro is pretty flat. So the radius pickup covers are I'm not sure what to think of that so far. Another physical feature is the screw mounting hole has been designed and manufactured to be quite a bit lower than a standard pickup. And that is to facilitate you having a place to put your thumb that does not come in contact with a screw, and especially over the P pickup, over that little rounded over plastic part, very commonly seen on P pickups. Now, in terms of design, this PJ set was advertised to be noiseless and quieter than most other pickups out there. So the J pickup here is a hum canceling design. Well, let's hear it. Just like episodes 1, 2, and 3, and I will leave some links in the description box below if you haven't seen those, we're going to compare these to the stock pickup using 3 different genres of music. In this first one, we're in the grunge rock, alternative rock type genre, and we'll have both pickups wide open, volume-wise, and we'll have the tone at 100% for the first pass and 50% for the second pass. Here we go. In this second playing example, we're going to feature the bridge pickup soloed by itself, and we're going to have a 16th note funky type backed by the bridge number, and we'll have 2 passes. First one with the tone knob at 100%, and the second pass rolled back to 50%. Here we go. In this third and final playing example, we're in a kind of modern tempo blues type genre. We're going to feature the neck P pickup, soloed by itself, volume all the way up. First pass, as you guessed it, tone knob at 100%, second pass, 50%. Here we go. Please let me know what you thought of the tones by leaving a comment below. All right, well, let's talk about these. First of all, let's talk about the sheer output or volume from these pickups. These pickups are hot. Now, before I started filming these types of videos for YouTube, I had a chance to try the Relentless pickups from Dimarzios, and those were even more hot. But this 60s PJ set is still hot. It's louder than the stock pickup. It's louder than the EMG Geezer Butler PJ set. For all of these videos here, I have the pickup height set in the exact same place and same height throughout all the videos to keep it consistent. But the sheer output is monstrous from these. Now let's talk about the noise floor of these pickups. As advertised, these are quiet. Allow me to demonstrate. So let me turn both volumes all the way up, tone knob all the way up. All right, let's just solo the neck pickup. Now it's a P humbucker. The expectation is that it's quiet, but with the tone knob wide open, no noise. Let's hear the bridge pickup by itself. Tone knob all the way up, no noise. And together, no noise. Now let's talk about the tonality of these pickups. In comparison to the stock micro pickups, I feel these pickups have quite a bit more lows and low mids. There are more high mids too, and I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But I think the biggest difference to my ear between the Dimarzio Sixties and the stock pickup is in that low mid range. Let's first start by talking about the grunge alternative rock example. So here we were using both pickups. Here you can hear that these pickups are quite a bit grittier in tone. It has a bit more of a kind of a growl to it, and there's a little bit more high mids, but there is that kind of low beefy mid-range that just kind of plows through like a freight train. So if you're looking for kind of a monstrous output and tone, compared to the stock pickups, they're cut. Going to the back by the bridge 16th note funky number, similar to the rock example, there seems to be a beefier, girthier, low mid-range there that just makes it sound bigger. Now this J pickup, in comparison to the stock, also seems to have a little more of a pronounced high range to it as well. So by itself, this bridge pickup is brighter and girthier in comparison to the stock pickup. And it's quiet. Going to the bluesy example, using only the neck P pickup, I think in this playing example, you really hear that difference in the lower mid-range. Here, the low mid sound quite a bit fatter and girthier in comparison to the stock pickup. Now, in comparison to the EMG Geezer Butlers that I featured in episode 2, the tone of these 60s pickups are quite different. In the EMGs, there tends to be more of a pronounced high mid-range, at least to my ears. But here, they seemed a little more less pronounced in the 60s Dimarzio set here. All right, well, from a big picture point of view, I have always been a believer that the pickups in the electronic package needs to match the bass. And what I mean by that is when you look at the visual aesthetic of the bass and kind of where the style and the aesthetic comes from, I would like to see an electronic package that kind of reflects that. And this is purely my opinion, but kind of when they don't match, it's kind of like putting Hofner pickups on like a metal style bass with a pointy headstock, right? It both doesn't aesthetically look right, and it probably doesn't sound right. So when I look at an old school P bass, I, kind of using my imagination, I hear a certain sound and I feel the electronic package needs to reflect that. Similarly, when I see like an Ibanez sound gear style, more modern style shape, my brain automatically hears a certain type of sound. So with that in mind, I actually feel the Dimarzio Sixties PJ set overall fits both the visual and the sonic aesthetic of an Ibanez style bass. So from that point of view, I think this whole package works. I love that it's quiet, and the extra low end girth makes this bass sound way bigger than its size would suggest. So if you're looking for a huge sound to come from a small bass, these could be your solution. Now, one more thing I will kind of comment on. The name for these pickups are the 60s. And I totally recognize that the 60s are a very revered decade in instrument making, both electric guitars and electric basses. However, I don't think sonically this PJ set sounds like a 60s pickup at all. It's far too big sounding and it's far too aggressive sounding. I've been fortunate to play some 60s era Fenders, and this doesn't sound like that to my ear. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching this series. Your viewership is very much appreciated. Until next time, peace.